For more than 40 years, Tom Silva has been a familiar and reassuring presence in American homes. Viewers didn't just watch him, they trusted him. His calm explanations, steady hands, and no-nonsense approach made even the most complicated repairs feel understandable. He never relied on drama or raised his voice for effect. Instead, he built credibility the slow way, through consistency. But behind that dependable image, there has always been more than what appeared on screen. Over time, questions began to surface. Not loud accusations, but quiet curiosity. And now, at 77, Tom has finally chosen to speak, not to defend himself, but to clarify what people never fully understood. To most viewers, Tom Silva was never just a television personality. On This Old House, he became something far more rare, a constant. As formats evolved and new faces appeared, Tom remained unchanged. His presence brought stability to a show that adapted with time. While others entertained, Tom educated. He wasn't trying to impress, he was trying to get things right. And that difference mattered. His credibility wasn't built overnight, it came from years of showing up with the same mindset. Do the job properly, explain it clearly, never cut corners. That approach made him more than a host, it made him a standard. But familiarity can be misleading. The longer someone stays visible, the more people assume they understand everything about them. Viewers saw Tom repair homes, guide teams, and quietly step back so others could learn. What they didn't see were the pressures building behind the scenes. As years passed, small changes became noticeable. He appeared slightly less often. Newer builders began taking more active roles. Online discussions started asking questions. Was he stepping back? Was something wrong? The speculation didn't come from facts, it came from silence. And Tom, by nature, never rushed to explain himself. That silence became part of the mystery. Tom Silva never felt the need to manage public perception. He believed the work should speak for itself. But in today's world, silence often invites assumptions. As rumors grew louder, the gap between perception and reality widened. Some believed he was being phased out. Others thought age had finally slowed him down. But none of those narratives came from Tom himself. He never announced a retirement. He never hinted at leaving. He simply continued working, just differently. Behind the scenes, the pressures of This Old House had been evolving for decades. What started as a simple educational program gradually became a national institution. With that growth came tighter schedules, broader audiences, and new expectations. For Tom, this created a constant tension. He believed construction required patience. Television demanded speed. That difference may seem small, but for someone built on integrity, it mattered deeply. Tom wasn't concerned with appearances. He was concerned with accuracy. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, these differences became more noticeable. Producers wanted faster packing. Tom insisted on proper processes. Drying times, structural safety, and realistic timelines were not optional to him. When suggestions came to simplify or speed things up, he quietly pushed back. Not aggressively, but firmly. Those disagreements were not about ego. They were about responsibility. Tom understood that viewers trusted him. Misleading them, even unintentionally, felt unacceptable. At one point, the situation nearly led to his departure. Tom Silva seriously considered walking away, not out of frustration but out of principle. He had spent his entire career building trust. He wasn't willing to compromise it for television convenience. According to those close to the production, he even drafted a resignation letter. It wasn't impulsive, it was thoughtful and measured, just like him. But in the end, something changed. The producers recognized his importance. Tom wasn't just another contractor on the show, he was its foundation. His presence gave the program credibility. Without him, the show risked losing what made it meaningful. So a compromise was reached. Tom was given more control over how construction was presented. Accuracy became non-negotiable. It was a turning point. The show preserved its integrity, but Tom also took on a heavier responsibility, becoming the standard others had to follow. As television continued to evolve, new challenges emerged. Faster content, digital platforms, and changing audience expectations brought a different kind of pressure. This time, the shift wasn't loud, it was subtle. Less screen time, more emphasis on new faces. While some saw this as progress, Tom saw a risk, not to himself, but to the depth of the work being shown. He didn't resist change, but he resisted losing meaning. Then, in 2018, something happened that changed everything on a deeply personal level. A young crew member, Austin Wilson, passed away unexpectedly. To the public, it was brief news. But for Tom, it was devastating. Austin wasn't just a colleague, he was someone Tom had mentored closely. He represented the future of the craft. Losing him wasn't just professional, it was deeply emotional. Those who worked on the show noticed the shift almost immediately. Tom Silva became quieter, more reflective. Conversations became shorter. His energy changed. For the first time in decades, he questioned whether continuing made sense. Not because he lost passion, but because grief introduced something he couldn't fix. And for someone who spent his life solving problems, that was a difficult reality. For months, he seriously considered stepping away. The work reminded him of what was lost. Teaching reminded him of who was missing. It was the closest he ever came to leaving. But what changed his perspective came from an unexpected place, Austin's family. They reached out not with blame, but with gratitude. They shared how much Austin admired him. That conversation didn't remove the grief, but it gave it meaning. Slowly, Tom Silva returned with a different mindset. Not detached, but more intentional. The loss stayed with him, but it reshaped his purpose. Teaching became more important than ever. Passing knowledge forward became a responsibility, not just a role. And in many ways, that shift defined the next chapter of his life. What most people didn't know was that Tom had been living a completely separate life away from the cameras. For years, quietly and without recognition, he helped rebuild homes for families affected by disasters. No announcements, no publicity, just work. He funded repairs, supported rebuilding efforts, and often stayed anonymous. It wasn't about image, it was about doing what needed to be done. This work began in the late 1990s and continued for decades. Through a small, private initiative, he helped families recover after fires and structural damage. He didn't attach his name to it. He didn't want attention. In fact, many of the people he helped were asked to keep it private. To Tom, charity was something personal, not something to showcase. That part of his life remained hidden until recently. In 2025, details began to surface unintentionally. People connected the dots. Stories aligned. And suddenly, a different picture of Tom Silva emerged. Not just a builder of homes, but someone quietly rebuilding lives. Meanwhile, the rumors about his career continued. But the truth behind them was far simpler. Yes, his pace had changed. Yes, his role evolved. But it wasn't because he was stepping away. It was because he was adapting. Years of physical work had taken a toll, back surgery, injuries, recovery. But instead of leaving, he adjusted how he worked. He shifted from doing everything himself to guiding others. Teaching became his focus. He spent more time explaining mistakes, preventing problems, and shaping the next generation. What looked like stepping back was actually stepping into a different kind of leadership. At 77, when Tom Silva finally addressed the speculation, his message was clear. He wasn't retiring. He wasn't being pushed out. He was choosing longevity over speed, purpose over presence. He acknowledged his limits, but also his responsibility to leave things stronger than he found them. In the end, his story isn't about stepping away. It's about evolving. About understanding when to lead from the front and when to guide from behind. His legacy isn't just in the homes he repaired, but in the people he taught and the standards he protected. And maybe that's the real question his story leaves us with. What matters more, the work we do or the impact we leave behind?